Well, happy 2009, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for the top wishes that we got in response to our Christmas video. If you haven't seen it, well, you haven't missed a lot. But it was good fun making it anyway. Special thanks to Mark Vazzo and, of course, Eric with those lovely emails that you sent through, and everybody else who said thanks as well. Lot to cover this week, but I'm not going to be able to get to it all, so we'll shelve some for next week. But there are so many things happening. iTunes is now DRM free, which means digital rights management free, which means if you've ever wanted to burn a song to a CD that you've bought online or whatever, and you've been having trouble doing that, well, that now looks at an end. Not going to cover that today. Go and find out about it if you're interested in it, though. Google it. Also, heaps heading up in the no clean feed debate. The US has just said they're going to shelve plans to try to filter pornography out of a new free Wi-Fi agreement. Not going to cover that today either. But the big story of 2009 as far as online marketing goes, online everything goes really, is going to be Twitter and Twitter-like applications. Now, I told you I was going to talk more about Twitter this year, and here we go. The last show I did on Twitter, we looked at a Twitter client called Twirl. Now, if you don't know much about Twitter, then it's pretty easy to get fairly familiar with it pretty quickly. Twitter has been around for a few years now, but it's really only taken off probably in the last 18 months. And even though I signed up a couple of years ago, I didn't really do anything with it because, you know, like most of you, probably just didn't have time to invest in learning another piece of technology. And because you're too busy running your business. Same here. But in the last 18 months, I've given it more time and I've been playing with it more. More clients have come out for Twitter. And I think it's going to have as bigger impact as Google, if not bigger. And it already is. And I'll give you an example of that. The other night, I downloaded a piece of software off a site that was, and it was an obscure driver that I was looking for a particular piece of software. And when I downloaded the little driver, I thought, this could be infected with a worm. But I thought, we'll give it a go, and if I get a worm, we'll fix it afterwards. So anyway, sure enough, installed the software, and I got a nasty worm on my notebook. So what I did then was, what I usually do is go to Google the symptoms of the worm and look for processes that are running in the background and all these sorts of things, and try to find out exactly what the machine's infected with. Worked that out okay, and got a recommended fix, which I then applied to the notebook, and it then killed the notebook. Not good. Anyway, I managed to resurrect the notebook. But what I did in the meantime is that I went to Twitter, and I said to everybody on Twitter, I've got this worm on my machine. What's the best thing to get rid of it? And within a minute, someone came back with a response. I tried out the response. Bang, fixed. Beautiful. And I'd spent probably at least 45 minutes on Google, but I'd only spent 3 minutes on Twitter, finding not only an answer, but one that worked better than others. So Twitter is certainly about personalised recommendations or recommendations from real people about various things, or news about things from real people. But to me, the most powerful thing about Twitter is the discovery aspect of it. And we're going to have a look at it now. What I've done, this Twitter client that we're looking at here is one called TweetDeck. It's probably one of the more popular ones. And the reason I love it is it allows me to have different groups, different windows, if you like, of whatever conversations or things that I might be following. So I can, for instance, set up a group of just friends, so that whenever, or family, for instance. So whenever I get a tweet from someone in my family, I can, that would all just be filtered into one column. But what I really like it for is, and I'll just cross that out, that's TwitScoop. What I really like is the ability to set up customized hot words or hot keywords that you're interested in. For instance, this morning I've just set up one here for this feed here. It says speakers wanted. And all I did was, where's my search tool? all I did here was type in speakers wanted and click OK, and then you get this window. And then anytime anybody on Twitter mentions the phrase speakers wanted, it's going to come up into this window. And that's really powerful because already, because I was just curious, and I know that we've got quite a few speakers that follow the show as well, and as you know, I do a bit of public speaking, and what I found interesting is that already I'm seeing there's people here who need speakers. Let me get rid of that. Who need speakers at various conferences, and they're conference organisers looking for speakers, and they're tweeting about it. So that's a really, really simple example of how powerful Twitter can be. But for business working, it's just immense. I mean, I've probably not directly got business from Twitter, but like any networking event that you go to, it's not about going there and hoping to get business at that networking event. It's about getting out there and getting more people aware of what you do and what your business does, so that if at some point the people you meet get asked, do they know anybody who might do, say, SEO, in my case, then they can recommend me because they've met me. Hopefully I've made a good impression. But the Twitter is very similar to that. And of course, I'm taking it from a business perspective, but there's a whole raft of social advantages to Twitter as well. But the ability to, and the reason I think it's going to have a more of an impact than Google is because it's the immediacy of it, it's getting recommendations from real people, and it's the discovery aspect. Now, certainly you could say that, well, Google sort of has a discovery aspect if you set up Google News alerts, so that any time a news item gets published on Google News with specific keywords in, you get an email telling you about it. Well, the difference with Twitter, of course, is that it's mobile, and I don't know how this is going to show up on the camera, but we'll give it a go anyway. It's mobile, so more so than, say, Google, and it's easy to use. Now, of course, the iPhone, I'll try to get a focus on that. Yep. Didn't work. We've got Cam, the cameraman, working for us now. Of course, he's taken the camera off autofocus, hasn't he? Anyway, this is a client called Twitter, and I won't try to bugger eyes around with the camera, except to, here we go. Now, this particular client is quite powerful in that it, for the iPhone anyway, in that it has these little, I can look at, who's nearby, and it will tell me who's using Twitter within a X kilometre radius of where I am right now, because of course the iPhone has GPS built in, and it can get your longitude and your latitude. So not only can we do all the discovery things that you can normally do with Twitter, but you can also find people within your immediate area who might fit the criteria of the search that you're running. So Twitter is going to be massive for 2009, and I won't be surprised if Google this year decides to acquire it. The main problem with Twitter is that it's flaky, because I'd like to say it's new, but I guess it's been around for 3 years or whatever it's been. So it ain't that new, but its growth is massive. And to give you a couple of examples, when the Mumbai terrorist event was going on, the reports in Twitter were faster and way ahead of the mainstream media. But some of the other problems with it is people getting used to it, in that there's been a lot of phishing attempts with Twitter. And if you don't know what phishing is when you get like a bogus email that says, oh, it's the bank here, you need to enter your username and your details again. That sort of thing happens a lot with Twitter. Happened this week. Obama's Twitter account got hacked, so did Britney Spears and a few others. But yeah, that's just stupidity, really, about not looking at what you're clicking on and all those sorts of things. But Twitter's going to be big. I better wind up the show because I'm probably about to go over time and YouTube won't be happy with me. But remember, if you've got any questions you need answered, send them through. And thank you very much for all the wonderful comments about the show last year. And hopefully you'll be equally as happy with the content this year. And we'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.